Good evening, YouTube model railroader fans. I'm Ray. Welcome to the Boeville and Newtown vlog 15, I think. I forgot to check before I came down here, so I have no idea. Happens to be Friday, June 24th, 2016. First thing I need to show you is something I got for Father's Day. Let's see if it, there we go. Yeah. My wife and my daughter found a shirt manufacturer. I guess they had a coupon or something. I don't know. It was online, but nice. It works. So, not a whole lot going on down here. Been an interesting week at work, to say the least, but that's a nasty four-letter word, as William reminds everybody, so we won't go there. But really haven't done anything on the railroad. Been a little busy. I'm hoping maybe tomorrow night I'll get down here and maybe mess around a little bit with a couple of things, namely still trying to play around with the the mashup. I've got that still sitting on the bench here, but I'll get to it when I get to it. Been going over some things. I know after the last vlog, both William Graham and I can't think of the guy's name, but Mr. Choo Choo from over across the pond both commented that I should probably talk to Mr. Bill, the track planner Baronic. And to be honest, that would be all well and good. I would have no problems talking to him for a few minutes to pick his brain, but the first thing of it is I want to know, I have to come up with something. I guess it's one of these things. I guess to a point that wonderful word pride gets in the way. To be honest, to give you all a little bit of a background, and I think I may have shown a few of them off last year, but years ago I picked up the HO scale template for doing track planning. I actually even picked up an N scale one because I wasn't sure which one I was going to do. And I made up a whole bunch of track plans. That's what I did in my off time when I was in the service. That downtime where you could just sit down and veg for a while. The neat thing with those was the fact that I didn't have any type of real room constraints. There were no closets and storage areas and poles and things of that nature that were going to get in the way. And I kind of had free reign, pardon me, to basically just come up with something. And some of it worked off of what my father and I had talked about doing, things of that nature. So, I came up with some really unique track plans. Of course, I went back and looked at them, and none of them would fit what I've got going on down here. And in fact, a few of them, actually one of them probably would have, but it wouldn't have given me what I really wanted, which was the continuous run and the point-to-point together. So I kind of nixed those ideas. One of the problems with a few of them was that was back in the 90s, the late 80s, early 90s, when we didn't have a whole lot of equipment. We didn't have a whole lot of rolling stock. Since then, I've gotten quite a collection going over here of locomotives. Like I said, I think I've got like 65 to 70 locomotives and probably, I'm going to guesstimate, somewhere close to 150 pieces of rolling stock, which when it comes time to convert everything to Katie's is going to get a little steep. But, that's the thing. I've been collecting this stuff for years now, and as the guys on the YouTube Model Builders Live, I finally got a chance to, I wasn't on the live show to listen to it Saturday night. Had a long day, had another one of those college tours, and then we had a graduation party to go to, and by the time we got done, I was done. So, I didn't get a chance to hop in, but the two fellows that were on there, they were talking, there was a question about the expense, and yes, let's put it this way, this is a hobby, this is supposed to be fun, and the community, the YouTube Model Builders community, for instance, we're all here to help each other out. We throw ideas at each other constantly saying, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? The bottom line is it's your railroad. You do what you want. But one fellow, which is the way I collected a lot of the stuff that I've got on the layout now, hit eBay, yard sales, estate sales, you know, things of that nature. You can pick up some decent stuff. And I mean, the thing of it is even going to train shows, like Bill said, you know, you go to somebody's table and they're selling, you know, 5 or 6 or 5 cars, 5 pieces of rolling stock for $3 or whatever it is. You may be able to go ahead and play around with it and maybe get 1 or 2, maybe 3 good ones out of that batch. But you still only spent $1 a piece. And, you know, it's kind of like some of the stuff that I've picked up. I've done the same thing, you know. And I just noticed I got a bottle of water sitting down here open, and that's not good. But, you know, that's the thing. You know, it's what you, I guess, the sound a little off, you get out what you put in. And, you know, the guys that run DCC and so on and so forth, and trust me, I went back and watched the April show again when I was on and with Barry and Mike, and, you know, yeah, I get it, trust me. And I'm not going to beat the dead horse because we've been over this 2, 3, 4, 5 times already. I've got what I've got. I enjoy what I've got. I'm going to stick with what I've got for the moment. So, that's it. It makes me happy. It's a pain. True. DC, straight DC is a pain. All the toggle switches and, you know, all that stuff, it is a pain. I get it. I'm an electronics guy, or an electrical guy. I don't mind running wiring. In fact, I've got a bunch of extra wiring sitting underneath the layout that I haven't used yet, that I've cannibalized from other stuff. So, the wiring bit doesn't bother me. But I just, like I said, with the era that I run, the locomotives that I've run, or that I run, and the age of this stuff, it just doesn't seem prudent at the moment to put out the expense to go DCC. And we'll leave it at that. So, I did mention on the last vlog, and actually even made a mention on Facebook, that I have come up with yet another track plan, and I'm calling this one number 28, and we're going to take a look at it here in a minute. It's I decided I was going to break the rules. And what I mean by that is after playing around and messing around and trying, and granted, before we go over to the computer and take a look at this thing, you have to remember the computer program that I'm using is not a railroad program. This program is literally for me to take a look at the possibilities of being able to put what I want into the space that I have. Once I'm happy with what I've got over here, then I'll transfer it to paper and make it to scale. This isn't really, it's as close as I could get the scale with the program that I'm using. It's a program called Visio. It's mainly for electrical, electronic engineering and architecture, things of that nature. But it's a close approximation to what I'm looking at doing. And the neat thing of this thing is, the way I've designed it, this particular plan is, I've got my continuous run. I've got a 4-track main, which means I can come down here and flip a switch, watch trains run if I want to. I can do switching if I want to. I've actually got went back to that whole rotating transfer table idea that I had on one of my previous plans. And the neat thing of it is with the way that this thing is set up, I can now expand my trains to like 5 feet and be able to rotate them, which is a huge help, because if I want to run the long coal trains that I want to run, 5 feet is about the max that train is. So it's real close. So without further interruption, let's go take a look at this thing, and I'll kind of explain what I've got going on. So give me a minute. Let's switch over to the computer. And we're going to go through this wonderful stuff again where, yeah, I know you can't take a picture of a computer screen with a computer screen that doesn't work. Anyway. Okay. Now, you'll notice that this thing does not take up the center of the room. And unfortunately, I can't shift it enough to where you can see the passenger line down here at the bottom. And I'll slide this thing up here in a minute. Basically, what you have your Richmond, yard, which is the southern terminus. You have the Harrisburg yard, which is the northern terminus. You can bring a train out from Harrisburg, go across the transfer table, come onto the layout on either one of the southbound lines. And the southbound lines, I believe, are the dark green here and the dark blue. You'll come around the layout through New Bolshide. This is Newtown, Newton's Farm. Newtown, Newton's Farm. Come through New Bolshide, and that's going to be a lot bigger than what it is now. Through New Bolshide. Then you'll come down here through Wakert Hill. Let me see if I can scooch this thing just a little bit. There we go. You'll come through Wakert Hill. You'll come across the stairs. This here will be, and I'm going to explain some things here in a minute. You'll come across here. This is just the outskirts of Boeville, so this here is going to be more like a suburban area. Boeville Yard. And then if you're running the through freight or the through passenger, you would actually run through the sump pump enclosure and back in onto the transfer table and into Richmond Yard on the southern terminus, and vice versa if you're going the other way. Now, the tricky part. I'm covering the bench. I'm covering the sump pump. And of course, I'm using the Diagon mouse, and you probably can't see that. So let me back this thing back up here a second. Okay. So this is where the bench sits. Newtown, or Newton's Farm, Newtown, and this corner would be removed. I'm going to build this thing, and of course I keep scooting here. I'm going to build this thing basically to where it's modular, which means that I can take each one of these sections out. So, case in point, when you get down here to where the furnace room is, where New Bolshide sits, which is over here, this section, they can be taken apart and moved up into this area so you can get into the furnace. Also, this here covers where the gas meter and the water shutoff is for the house. This will be permanent. This will be permanent for the most part. These sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, will all come apart and basically be slid into the open areas so that you can get into the electrical room, the storage here, and obviously across the stairs, and into this storage area. The sump pump room. This here will be permanent. These two sections will be removable so that you can get to the sump pump. This section will be permanent, and like I said, this section will be permanent. And I still have to work out how I'm going to work the rotating transfer table. Because obviously what we want to do is we want to have the trains to where they back in to these tracks. Now, like I said, this isn't completely to scale. These track centers are set 3 inches. That's 3/4 of an inch more than what they need to be. Number one. Number two, in reality, these could be a heck of a lot closer. So I could probably get some more tracks in here if I wanted to. This here is actually the existing Newtown as it is today. So Newton's Farm and all would be repurposed for this. This is Boeville. This is that old 1950s piece of plywood, and I'm doing it again. This here's repurposed Newtown. This is repurposed Boeville. This is the 1950s piece of plywood. This is what's currently, this section here is currently what New Bolshide's on. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 sections that I don't have to replace. And I'm going to take what is right now Wakert Hill, and that'll be split up and be used. I believe part of that becomes this area down here, and I think the other part of it would be this section here, which I called sump pump number 1. So basically, this thing will be built modularly. It will not be built to modular standards. I obviously will be taking this and putting it up on Facebook and on YouTube, or Google Plus, so that you all can get a kind of a better look at it. But that was my thing, is the fact that when I run trains, I'll bring these 2 sections in. I'm doing it again. I'll bring these 2 sections in. I'll bring this section in, and these 2 sections in, so that the trains will run. So that way, when I'm done, these two and these two and this one come out. They go into the middle of the room or into the open area so that you can get emergency access to the gas meter, to the furnace and the water heater, and to the electrical panel. So it gives me two things. Number one, obviously, this plan, let me go ahead and I'm going to shrink this down a little bit because I can. And I goofed here somehow. There we go. So I just made it a little bit smaller so that it fit on the screen. As you can see, I've got some really long main lines now, which is nice. This is going to open things up an awful lot. So I'm thinking that this is going to be the way to go. Obviously, I'm going to need to do some other stuff, but anyway, I'm going to switch the camera back around here a minute. Give me a second. Okay, let's try that again. I forgot to flip the camera on the iPad, and it was taking a picture of the furnace enclosure. Anyway, so that was, unfortunately, I know that this video is up over 15 minutes. But it was a lot to go over. I wanted to get this up because I've been playing with this now for a couple of days during lunch, and like I said, it's not something I wanted to do. But ultimately, when I sat down and I thought about it and I put this thing together, I was like, you know what? This could work. As long as I take into account that I need to make sure that, you know, the gas meter, which is on the other side over here, and the furnace, which is right ahead of me, and then the electrical panel are open, then it's not a problem. And it makes this thing just a lot more. It gives me a lot more runtime. It gives me the point to point. I don't have to worry about doing, you know, any really goofy stuff. I am going to, as I stated, it's going to be a modular style, and I say a style very lightly, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take, I guess, the best of both worlds. It's going to be still on L-girder. I'm thinking of still doing L-girder construction. The sections that are movable will be on wheels, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the wall and put a leg and a brace off the wall to actually hold the sections in alignment, kind of like what I do with my swing bridge now, where when the sections are pulled away from the wall and they're in the middle of the room, I can actually take that leg section and actually fold it up against the wall. And then when I want to run the trains, I unfold it, slide the thing over top of it, it's in perfect alignment, and I'm done. So kind of like with the swing bridge, when it comes off that one section over there, when it comes, let's see if I can do it this way, when it comes off that section, it hits the wheels and it rolls. But when it's on the main part of the layout, that board helps to bring it up and make sure that the thing is in perfect alignment across. So that's what I'm thinking about doing. Of course, now the other part of it is okay, so that's great. How do you get the electric and the wiring and everything else across? Well, I've come up with ideas for that too. I'm a former boater, so I know that there's connectors and things of that nature out there, and not only that, but I got a computer supply store right up the street. I'm sure I can find some connectors up there and just solder them up myself, and that'll just keep the track power going across. And then the electrical power, well, that'll be a little bit, I'll have to play with that idea a little bit, but I think I've got an idea on that one as well. Again, I did look at the NMRA to take a look at their standards for modules, and I'm not planning on taking these things out of here, so I'm not worried about them linking up to anybody else. So, like I said, I've got my own ideas. The mad scientist at work. It's alive! Can you tell what kind of a day I've had? So that's where it's at. So, you know what? I know it has been a long video. I really appreciate everybody hopping in, taking a look around. I don't think I've picked up that many more subscribers, although the views are still climbing. I think I'm up to close to 5,000 views, but I'm at 121 subscribers the last time I looked. So, but that's cool. That's great. Everybody's still, you know, I appreciate the comments when I get them. But, you know, you all know the deal. You wait for the high ball, green tracks ahead, take it easy, be safe out there. We'll catch you next time. Have a good one.